Welcome to the distributed system course. In the previous session, we discussed the physical clock synchronization algorithms that are already see the physical clock synchronization in distributed systems that are called UTC and Christian's algorithm, Berkeley's algorithm, Average algorithm, and NTP, network time protocol. Today, we are going to discuss the logical clock synchronization. Um, Time is an important and interesting practical issue in distributed system for several reasons. Each computer may have its own physical clock. The physical time is based on the physical clock. In order to know what at what time of a day a particular event occur, we can rely on the physical clock. So, in order to know at what time of a day a particular event occurred at a particular computer, it is necessary to synchronize its clock with an external source of time. But the clock typically deviate and we cannot synchronize them perfectly. That is the reason. So we are going to try to synchronize all the physical clock, but it is not. It is impossible to synchronize all the clocks to be synchronized. So then the people use the physical time to order some events. For example, we can say that an event, we take our own example, that is an event, the comprehensive model exam is completed at time 12:30 p.m. and before an event, another event, that is distributed system online class. That is, there are two events. That is, first one is the comprehensive exam completion at 12:30 p.m. and the start of our online distributed system class at 12:31 p.m. In distributed system, physical clocks are not always precise, so we cannot rely on physical time to order events. We consider two events, that is, first one is the comprehensive exam completion at 12:30 p.m. and second one, the distributed system class at 12:31 p.m. In distributed system, physical clock are not always precise, so we cannot rely on the physical time to order the event. We are going to order the two events, but we cannot order the event due to the imprecise nature of the physical clock. Instead, we can use logical clock to create ordering of events. Okay. The logical clock was proposed in 1978 by Lambert as a way of time stamping and ordering events in the distributed system. That is, logical clock was first proposed by a scientist called Lambert in 1978. It is used to order events in the distributed system. Each process executes a series of actions, each of which is either a message sent or a message received. The action may be a communication action or a state in transformation action. The occurrence of a single action that a process carried out is called event. That is, a send is a operation that can be an event, or receiving a message that can be event, or something some communication action that can be also a event, or state transforming action that can be considered as an event. So whenever a particular action or execution, we can call it as event in distributed system. Logical clock is a tool for ordering events without knowing precisely when they occurred. That is the use of the logical clock. That is used for ordering the events in the distributed system. That is the use of logical clock. The logical clock, we can call it as Lambert's clock, Lambert's logical clock also. The Lambert pointed out that since we cannot synchronize clock perfectly across a distributed system, we can't use physical time to find out order of the events in the distributed system. That is a statement pointed out by the scientist Lambert. The Lambert clock is a Lambert or logical clock is a kind of counter which help to keep track of events in the distributed system. These clock counters were Lambert's invention, so it is called Lambert's logical clock. That is the logical clock is a counter which help to keep track of the events in the distributed system. So it is called Lambert's logical clock. It is Lambert's logical clock has some values which are not have a relationship to the physical clock. Logical clock provides a solution to the problem of keep track of casually ordering events in the system. By using the logical clock, we can more easily create a chain of events between process in the distributed system. That is the use of logical. It is mainly used for ordering of events in the distributed system. It is not related to any physical clock. Then the Lambert proposed a relation called happened before relation. It is sometimes also called the relation of casual ordering. Also, we can say that it can be say that potential casual ordering also. Happened before relation can be called as relation of casual ordering or potential casual ordering. It is denoted the relation, the happened before relation is denoted by a symbol that is the arrow pointing to the right side. That is that you can see in the figure that in the screen that it is denoted by an arrow pointing to the right. The happened before relation is defined by using three rules. That is, first one is if A and B are two events in the same process and A comes before B, then we can say that A is happened before B. Then we can say that A is happened before B. In this case, consider process P. There are two events A and B. A is happened before B, so we can define that A is happened before B relation. That is the first rule for happened before relation. The second rule is if A is sending of a message and B is a recipient of that message, then we can say that A is happened before B. That is, there are two processes, that is P0 and P1. Then A is an event in the P0 and B is the event in the P1. A is a sending event and B is a receiving event. Then we can say that A is happened before B. Only after sending we can receive the message. So we can define like that. A is happened before B if A is a sending process and B is a receiving process. Then the third rule is if A happened before B and B happened before C, then we can say that A happened before C by using transitive rule. That is, these are the three rules used in the happen before relationship. Then we can go to one example. Here there are three processes, that is P1, P2 and P3. The P1 process contains two events, that is A and B. The P1 contains two events C and D, and P3 contains two events E and F. By using the first rule is applicable for the events in the same process. So we are going to identify the happen before relationship by using the first rule. In considering the P1, there are two events, that is A and B. There are two events in the same process P1. So we can apply the first rule, that is A is happened before B. We get a one relation A happened before B. When we consider the second process P2, we can say that C is happened before D, so we can identify a particular relation, that is C happened before D. By using the first rule, we can also identify a relation in P3, that is E happened before F. That are the relations identified by using the first happened before relation rule. Then by using the second rule, we can identify another happened before relation, that is B happened before C. That is B is a sending event, then C is a receiving event in different process. The P1 is sending a message M1 to P2. P is sending a message M1 to the process P2. There are two events, B and C. B is a sending event and C is a receiving event. So we can say that B happened before C by using the second rule. In P2 is sending a message M2 to the process P3. So we can say that the sending event D is happened before the receiving event F. So we can define another relation, that is D happened before F. That is the case. So we get A happened before B, then C happened before D, then E happened before F. Then by using the first rule, then we get the happened before relation. B happened before C and D happened before F by using second relation. Then by using the third rule, that is transitive rule, we can get some more happened before relationship. That is by using A happened before B and B happened before C. From these two happened before relationship, we can get A happened before C. Similar way, by using A happened before C and C happened before D, we will get A happened before D. Then by using A happened before D and D happened before F, we will get A happened before F. So we can derive many number of happened before relationship by using the third relation of the transitive happened before relation, that is transitive rule. Then we can discuss the concurrent events. In the case of if two events that are not ordered by the happened before relations are called concurrent events. In our example, A and E are concurrent event, because we cannot say that A is happened before E or E is happened before A by using our happened before rules. So A and E can be concluded that are concurrent events. The concurrent events are denoted by some one parallel pipe, that is denoted by A pipe, the pipe that is concurrent to E. Okay, that about the happened before relation. Then next we are going to discuss how the logical clock of a process or a system is updated during its execution. There are two logical clock updation rules. That first one is, for any two successive events that take place within Pi, Li is incremented by 1. That is, Li is the logical clock of a process Pi. Whenever two successive events happened, it will increment the logical clock by 1. If in the previous section also we will go to the example after discussing these rules, then you will get more idea about it. Then the second rule is, in each time a message M is sent by process Pi, send a message M, then a logical value of that particular process or event is associated within the message. Each time a message is sent by a process Pi, Then the message contains a logical value, logical clock is piggybacked with that message. That is, if Tm is the time, a logical time of Li is the logical time of particular process Pi. If Pi is going to send a message, then that Li, that is logical clock of Pi, that is Li, is associated with the message. That message will become m comma Tm. Okay. Whenever a message m comma Tm, that is sent by one sending process, is received by a process Pj, then Pj adjusts its clock value by using the equation max of Lj equal to max of Lj comma Tm. That is, the Lj is the current logical clock value of the receiving process, and Tm is the time value or logical clock of the sending process, that is included in the message. We will compare it and we will take the maximum value from it, and then that maximum value will incremented by 1. That is a case of on the receiving process. By using the first rule, we are incrementing the value by 1 for each and successive events. On the sending time, we will incorporate the logical clock of a particular machine to that message. On the receiving time, it will check the maximum value of its current logical clock and the receiving timestamp. It will take as the clock value of its system. Okay. That is, we can conclude that if E is happened before E dash, then the logical clock of E must be less than the logical clock of E dash. That is, E and E dash are two events. If E is happened before E dash, then we can say that the logical clock of E is less than logical clock of E dash. This is the example for the how to calculate the logical clock value of a particular system. In this, you can see that there are three processes, that is P1, P2, and P3. Then P1 can have two events, that is A and B. P2 has two events, C and D. Then P3 has two events, E and F. Initially, the logical clock of all the processor or system is initialized to 0. That is, P1, the logical clock of is 0 before any event, and P2 also can have the logical clock 0 before any event, and P3's logical clock is initialized to 0 before any events. Okay. Then the first event happened in P1 is A, so we will assign logical value 1 to that particular event. Also, at the same time, the P3 have the another event, that is C, that is the first event, so we will give 1 to that event also. Okay, so according to the first P1, A is the first event, so we will assign the logical clock 1 to that process. According to P3, it is the first event, so E is the first event, so we will assign the logical value 1 to that particular process. Okay, then considering the P2, C is the first event because it receive message from P1, so its value depends on the sending process, so we cannot assign 1 to C. Okay. The next event in the process P1 is B, so we can assign the logical clock value 2 to B, that is incrementing the value of A to B's value, that is value of A is 1, the logical clock value at a time event A is 1, that value is incremented by 1, so the value of B become 2. That is by using the first rule, that is successive event. If a successive event happen in a particular process, we will increment the logical clock value by 1. By using that rule, we will assign the 2 to the logical value 2 to the event B in the process P1. Okay. Then next, C is the event. C is a receiving event from process P1. So we will take the maximum of the current value, that is current value of the P2 is 1 and the sending message contain the timestamp 2. We will take the maximum of 1 comma 2. That is the case. That is the P2 have the time of 0 first, then we will increment the value by 1, so it will become 1. Then it is same at the same time it have a receive message, that is timestamp is 2, so we will take the maximum of 1 comma 2, so their maximum is 2, then we will increment it by 1, so it is going to 3, it is going to 3, then the C get the timestamp of 3. Next, the event is D in the process P2, so it is happened in the same process P2, so we can increment it by 1, so the logical clock of the event D in P2 is 4. Then the next event is F in the process P3. The current value of E is current logical clock of P3 is 1, that is for the event E, and the receive message M2 contains the logical time of P2, that is P2 event, that is event D, that is 4. So we will take the maximum of the current value of P2 1 and the timestamp in the message, that is 4. So that we will get a maximum as 4. Then we will increment that value by 1. So we get the value 5 in the result. Thus we get the result as this. So by using the rule, if E is happen relation with E dash, we can say that the logical clock of E is less than logical clock of E dash. Here you can take any example related to this. Now I am going to take the example, that is B happened before C. In this case, the value of logical time of B is 2, that is less than the logical time of C. In another case, we derived from this system A related to A is happened before F. The value of the logical time of event A is 1 and the logical time of logical clock of F is 5, so it is less than 5. That means happen before relationship or hold, then E happen before E dash, then the logical time of E is less than logical time of E dash. Next, the limitation of logical Lempert's clock. Then that is if E is happen before E dash, then we can say that logical time of E is less than logical time of V dash. If we reverse the direction, that is L of E dash is less than L of V dash, then we cannot conclude that E is happened before E dash. That is, consider the example that is B and E. That is, we cannot the value of the logical time of B is 2 and the logical time value of E is 1, but we can't say that E is happened before B by using the Lambert's logical clock relationship, because B and E are concurrent events. So we cannot, for a concurrent events, we cannot say that B is happened before E or E is happened before B. That is the case. That is a limitation of logical Lempert's clock. Okay. So to avoid this, we will use the vector synchronization. We will discuss it in the next session. Thank you.